Wow, we've got some dead air. Welcome back to another episode of Leaving the Pfarm, right here on Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. We are a listener-supported radio station, and if you'd like to donate, please visit us at www.freedomslips.com and click on our support pages. Every little bit helps. We are kind of under for this month, it looks like. So if you can donate, please do so. I'm just going to get right into it. Now, on Blacklisted News today, there's a report on Britain pedophile network at the heart of government. Now, that's the same thing it is here. Legislatures, lawmakers, attorneys, those in positions of high power, they like trafficking in children. That's what they do. That's their function. To enable a child to be a product, it has to be broken, and they're breaking them. They're breaking your children. And they're doing this through trick and deception, of course, and also through consent. You're consenting to this. I will give you an example. Today, a 19-year-old child, it reports her in the dailycaller.com as a woman. This is a teenager, 19 years old. A 19-year-old calls cops for help. They smash her face and charge her with assault. Her boyfriend was apparently, according to her, overdosing on anti-anxiety medication. And I'll touch on that for a second, too, because that's another profound aspect of what we are dealing with today. They just facilitated the first execution using a derivative of lorazepam and phenobarbital. And everybody who has seizures or convulsions in any way have taken or been prescribed phenobarb, and they've been prescribed lorazepam or Ativan, Valium, Xanax to combat anxiety. They just use these medications for the first time to facilitate an execution. These medications are used every day in hospital settings to kill your parents, to kill you, to kill your children. That's the end stage of everybody's life. They're put on a derivative of lorazepam and some other muscle relaxant, or such as phenobarb, hydromorphone is what they're using, which is a derivative of hydrocodone, hydromorphine, morphine, opiates. These things shut your body down. It decreases the ability of your lungs to function. Everybody has lost someone in their lives who have been through the what is known as the death rattle. That sound is that human being drowning thanks to the medical industry. That is a presentation for you to watch as your family member or yourself is being executed in a hospital setting that makes it look pretty and nice. Everything's whitewashed and everybody has coats on and clean beds and clean shoes and clean hands. They really don't have clean hands, and they will be held accountable for genocide. Now back to the Britain pedophile network at the heart of government. A former female MP was involved in a pedophile network at the heart of government, police have been told. She is alleged to have forced a boy in care to perform vile sex acts at one of a series of drug-fueled parties in Westminster in the 80s, where boys and girls as young as 13 were allegedly abused. This is what they do when they take your children into care. These children are in care. They're in foster homes and group homes, juvenile justice settings. From the independent.co.uk, sex, drugs, and even and all, the police officers that break the law. Serving police officers have been found guilty of nearly 200 crimes in the past 3 years, with some actively using their positions for illegal gain. Police forces across the country have arrested their own officers for a range of offenses, including some as serious as running a brothel, possession of child pornography, and selling firearms. And, of course, preying on your children. Now, we've seen in recent months, since the federal government has been found guilty of genocide, human trafficking, that FBI agents and police detectives are now being charged with these things. Stop patronizing it. Stop paying it. There will come a point here shortly, as soon as I'm not so backlogged, that anybody paying taxes or any amount of money to aid and abet the corporation known as the United States Incorporated or the United States of America, which is style or chain of events, will be found guilty of aiding and abetting the known enemy of humankind. They're under bankruptcy. There is a different trustee in place now. That is also bankruptcy fraud and bank fraud for them to be collecting or otherwise benefiting from a defunct corporation without those monies going to the trustee. From the dailymail.co.uk, mother stopped as she was walking along the promenade by a police officer after someone called 999 to report that her daughter might be cold. Now, dressed in woolly tights, leggings, all-in-one vest, and a fleecy top, 9-month-old Maddie Andrew seemed well wrapped up for winter. But that did not stop a passerby by dialing 999 to report her mother, Paula, for exposing a child to the cold. 2 policemen were immediately sent to Scarborough seafront to question her about Maddie's welfare. Okay, now, an informant, an anonymous caller, informant, called law enforcement to inform on what appeared to be a single mother and a child on the promenade. Now, this allows predation on our most valuable beings. The informants will also be held accountable coming soon. Every one of you that have delivered somebody up or think it's best to inform on your brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, children, and put them in these places of hell, will be held accountable. Octomom, Nadia Suleiman, charged with welfare fraud by LA District Attorney. This is on masslive.com. Now, years ago when Octomom had all 8 of her children, Gloria Allred, an attorney, entered onto the scene and protected her, quote, rights. This, of course, is the action of low-intensity conflict, where there's force always behind Nadia Suleiman, whereby she's forced to reach out for help. In a natural state of being, Nadia Suleiman and her children would not be preyed on by attorneys. Inflation rates created by attorneys. And the debt we find ourselves wrapped around our necks. Now, Gloria Allred, in the action of hearts and minds, or winning hearts and minds, an attorney came in and offered Nadia Suleiman rights and benefits and all the things that come with winning of hearts and minds, which is a war tactic. She told her that under feminism she could do pornos and she could go naked and dance and do all of these things that are for entertainment value. Now, Nadia's not innocent because she bought these things that were sold by the law merchant. But Nadia needs to be protected now more than ever by humanity because she is now being preyed on by the very attorneys that told her to do these things. Quote, Octomon Nadia Suleiman did porn films, boxed deluxe celebrities, even endorsed birth control for dogs after giving birth in 2009 to 8 babies after she received in vitro fertility treatments. Through it all, she never ran afoul of the law, at least until now. First of all, she hasn't perpetrated a crime against a human being, so she hasn't broken any laws. On Monday, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office announced Suleiman has been charged with 3 counts of welfare fraud. Authorities say the 38-year-old single mother of 14 children failed to report $30,000 she earned while collecting public assistance money. Suleiman, who was charged January 6, was not immediately taken into custody, but was ordered to appear in court on Friday. Prosecutors plan to ask the bail be set at $25,000. She failed to report $30,000 of income, and her bail is set at $25,000. There's 14 children being preyed on by this prosecuting attorney, by the city of Los Angeles, by the county, Orange, by the state of California, which of course is a franchise of a bankrupt corporation. This bankrupt corporation has decided to foreclose on the estate of Nadia Suleiman because she's up for grabs. Why is she up for grabs? You know, she's been patronizing the law merchant. She's been patronizing Gloria Allred. She's been patronizing feminist organizations. She's been patronizing the state and calling it her father, so it's taking care of her and her kids. She has a bail amount due of $25,000 for 14 children for a crime against the laws of revenue as defined by 27 CFR 72.11. 14 children are potentially at risk of starving to death if she's allowed to keep them. Now, the rest of the story says that she can face 6 years in prison. Now, all this time, different entities, CPS, and Gloria Allred have been targeting Nadia's children because they like children. They like trafficking in children. They enjoy the revenue that this brings. They enjoy preying on females, as you can see here. And humanity has been taught through the media to blame Nadia, to lay the blame on the babies, to allow these things to occur as the informants of the United States Incorporated. What are you doing? What are you patronizing? What are you allowing that 14 children can face possibly 6 years in foster care and adoption industry with rapists and pedophiles and molesters employed by the adoption industry and foster care system, employed by child protection to do exactly what it's doing, preying on women and children. If you don't stand up and you continue to patronize it, you will be held accountable. Now again, back to the blacklisted news, pedophile network at the heart of government. A former female MP was involved in a pedophile network at the heart of government, police have been told. A female. She's alleged to have forced a boy in care to perform a vile sex act at one of a series of drug-fueled parties in Westminster. Last night, our alleged victim told the Sunday Express, "I want justice." Andrew Ashe, now 45, said he was given Scotland Yard, the name of the former MP. Blacklisted News says we cannot name her for legal reasons. Mr. Ash claims he was frequently ferried down to London from the north of England, where he was in care to take part in sex parties. He says they were organized by a pedophile ring involving David Smith, Jimmy Savile's former chauffeur, who killed himself last year before he was due to stand trial for sex offenses. Now, I've been watching that, and I have my doubts on whether or not he killed himself, because he had a lot of information regarding politicians and attorneys, judges, psychiatrists, juvenile justice facilities that do nothing more than traffic children. Quote, going back to the story, quote, he says they were organized by this pedophile ring involving this David Smith and Jimmy Savile. He said it wasn't just politicians. There were also a number of celebrities, including Jimmy Savile, who seemed to have a lot of good links to the MPs and powerful businessmen. Now, who cashes in when your child is raped or molested? You'll go into court, and the first thing that a judge or banker does is charges the defendant for use of your child's body. They will be charged with rape or molestation. That's a product in a corporation. Rape, molestation are products of a corporation. So he's charging the perpetrator rent on your child's body. This is the action of prostitution. This is the action also of child predation, pedophilia. This is the action of human trafficking. Now, upon those charges, the bank and the rest of the bankers, who are known as attorneys, they have an oath under the banking laws, 12 U.S.C. subsection 73. These attorneys, maintaining they are allowed to facilitate banking under the court, the bank. Now, they're all cashing in. The prosecuting attorney gets his cut, $6,000 right away. That child is a high-end prostitute. $6,000 for use of that body. The attorneys that are playing the game, defense attorney, prosecuting attorney, and the judge, an attorney in a black dress, will then facilitate what is known as fee splitting and fee sharing. So you're expending money on your attorney, the defense is expending money on their attorney, prosecuting attorneys raking it in through the various federal funding sources, and your child's been raped. That child's not getting anything. Now the parents can apply for victim compensation and get paid for the rape of the child too, so they can participate in this prostitution scam. The child is still without. And it's now missing the self because it was so egregiously abused, destructed. And do you think it's going to look at you as a parent? Because now it's been taught another authority. There's a pimp there that cares for that child, the new father, that thing it's going to look up to the rest of its life. And it's going to call 911 and get its head beat in. And that broken child is going to go in and out of juvenile justice, which is just exactly where they want him or her to be. And as they grow up and they start reacting even more egregiously because of what's happened upon them, they're going to enter into the criminal industry and the big prison setting. Or they're going to go off with another daddy These little girls, 16, 17, 18 years old, you're going to be with a 60-year-old politician or an attorney or a banker or a psychiatrist or a youth group pastor. And they're going to enjoy that position, being a child perpetually the rest of their lives. They're going to normalize that behavior, and they're going to have children, and the same thing is going to happen again. And all of this is founded on your consent, your patriotism. And you're made glad in these things. I got an attorney in my pocket. I've got an attorney on perpetual retainer. Look at this case file. I've got 6 inches of paperwork, and it costed me $150,000. And I expended $350,000 that last time, and I can prove by those actions that I'm a rich man. I'm a rich woman. And I have 6 different condominiums, and 5 of them are in foreclosure. That's just me. And I have all these things, but the IRS is coming after me, but I'm protected. I got a DUI and a speeding ticket, but I'm protected. I'm special. I'm a citizen. I'm a mother. I'm a teacher. I'm a doctor. I'm a priest. What you're seeing now in the mainstream media is the government going back after all of these retirement accounts. You're seeing, today I saw a 67-year-old female administrator position charged with embezzlement and those things. Her retirement's being stolen. I mean, even if she's not sentenced to jail, she's 67. Her retirement's gone. She's going to pay all that out into attorney pockets for a crime she never committed. She never perpetrated a harm against a human being. She perpetrated a crime against the laws of revenue as defined by 27 CFR 72.11. She's being tricked and deceived. She's being tricked out as a prostitute of the court system. It never ends. It never fails. Caesar always gets his cut unless you dissent and you maintain that you have patriotism elsewhere. You have a different government. No, thank you. I'm not your prisoner of war because I know who I am. I know what my house is. I know my government. I don't need to be held as a prisoner of war under 1929 Geneva Convention because I have a lawful government. Thank you anyway. Good news, Las Vegas attorney charged with theft of more than $1 million from clients. Now, when we're talking about fictional charges and the laws of revenue and everything else, an attorney is a fiction. It can be charged with those things. That's what fictions do. They can be anything you want to. It's up to your imagination. This is in the LasVegasSun.com. Quote, a suspended Las Vegas attorney was arraigned today on charges accusing him of stealing more than $1 million from clients. Barry Levinson is accused of robbing his clients in personal injury lawsuit settlements from January 2007 to July 2012. Settlements, personal injury, which means bring into law, to bring into law, settlements. So here's some clients of an attorney going into court and saying, I've been injured. I want the rent on my body. Give it to me now. And they didn't even get the rent. The attorney took it. I thought that was very, very profound to see. And now he's being charged, so the government cashes in on what happened to you twice. Isn't that amazing? So here's some double dipping for you. And the judge and the other attorneys will cash in on this attorney and your injury and your patriotism. Your consent, that's all they need. They need your consent. Let's go back to that Britain pedophile ring. Mr. Ash claims officers have footage which shows a senior male MP in the same frame as him, although no abuse takes place on camera. He said he is speaking out now because he is frustrated by the lack of action after being interviewed for 70 hours by the Met's police pedophile unit. Now, this is a victim being interviewed for 70 hours. They need to know what he knows. They need to know what he knows to protect themselves. This is the game of politics. Now, this is regarding a man named Andrew Ash in the UK, now 45. This report is on blacklistednews.com. And I want everybody to watch carefully because Mr. Ash does not indicate he's suicidal. He doesn't indicate that he's in chaos. He says, I want justice. And here's a list of names. 70 hours they interviewed this victim. Now, normally what happens is he ends up dead, and they call it a suicide or whatever they want to call it, because for 70 hours he named names. This is the true whistleblowers that need protection. These victims that know too much and can name names. Now, in 70 hours, the list of names of perpetrators of pedophilia would be quite extensive, and not, according to this story, 1, 2, 3, 4 people. So everybody needs to be aware of these things and kind of coax this information back out of your governments that you are patronizing. Because it's easy to kill Mr. Ash and cover everything up. Because the sheeple mind likes it like that. They don't want to know that their government's doing these things. But you're also not protecting children, which is your obligation. If you're a human being on this planet, your obligation is to protect the children. Now back to the mother who was stopped on the promenade there in the UK. Mother stopped as she walked along promenade by a police officer. Someone called 911 to report that her daughter might be cold. Now here we're getting child protection involved and police involved in the lives of humanity. That's going to end. I'd like to read from a wiki article on stolen generations. It's a term. Quote, the stolen generations, also known as stolen children, were the children of Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander descent who were removed from their families by the Australian federal and state government agencies and church missions under acts of their respective parliaments. Now, everybody needs to realize what parliament means. It means to speak, parler, French. Those are not lawmakers. That's a voice for something. Parliament is the voice of something. In 1941, Congress got global governance with the Atlantic Charter, who are a set of lawmakers, the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. And they had this ability before that point in time because, other countries didn't have such as the word or definition of democracy and constitutional republic. These things are all confederated states, federal agencies, federal departments, and parts and parcel to the Confederacy in action. Confederacy, defined in Black's Law Dictionary, maintains that it is a criminal enterprise. So let's go back to that story. Under acts of their respective parliaments, which of course is Congress, because Parliament maintains that they're a voice of something, and Congress is the lawmaking authority behind Parliament. The removals occurred in the period between approximately 1909 and 1969, although in some places children were still being taken until the 1970s. Well, they're still being taken. It's just really quiet now. And they call themselves the Department of Health and Human Services. That thing was created by Henry Kissinger, a proponent of eugenics, in 1975. At that time, it was called the Office of Population Affairs. And its function was as to Dr. Henry Kissinger's directives in his memorandum to the National Security Council, stemming from the National Security Act of 1947, wherein Dr. Henry Kissinger maintained that depopulation should be the highest priority of foreign policy. If foreign is a foreign state, meaning Yakima County, foreign state, Washington, foreign state, or Salem, a foreign state, Oregon, a foreign state. These are all foreign states. Your corporations, a foreign state defined, can be found under 28 U.S.C. subsection 1603. And in that, it just maintains their corporation acting under corporate policy or subdivision of such. That's what foreign policy is. Foreign policy is the directives of foreign politics. Politics in between states, two states. Now these stolen generations, this is out there and in your face. The Department of Health and Human Services is running child protection. It's running juvenile justice programs. It's running the courts. You have child protection in the courthouse. And you can find all of these criminal acts in 28 U.S.C. or United States Code, the judiciary. You can find how it's set up. The E4s of Sparta, which are the same magistrates that are here now. There's, of course, the judges over the Department of Justice, over the Attorney General, over the FBI. These judges are pulling strings. Why? Because they're the bank. This is very beneficial to banking. Banking is also known as commerce and navigation, which is moving human beings around to facilitate the most efficient product. Going back to stolen generations, these babies were being moved around to develop the most efficient product. Those children are productive. When they're ripped from their families, they react. They get to be diagnosed as all sorts of stuff. The CMS system itself is based on diagnosis. Where does that money go? To the judiciary. How? Under Northern Holdings and Trust, under bankruptcy, the medical industry is in Northern Holdings and Trust. The criminal industry is in Northern Holdings and Trust. These holding corporations are holding the insurance industry. And who runs it? Attorneys, bankers, of course they're going to run it. 12 U.S.C. subsection 73. Banking. When you go to Black's Law Dictionary, negotiorum gestio. That is the court process. They're negotiating you a negotiable instrument. What's the attorney called? Negotiorum gestor. It's still the same court jester as always. Trafficking children. Trafficking females. Trafficking males. Maintaining everybody under Devonshire or a debt secured by your own earning power. You're securing debt. You're not securing loans. Those will never be paid back. Debts never paid back. Subscribing to this thing or underwriting, subscribing, underwriting, policy, it's an insurance policy, guarantees your productive value. You are underwriting the policy. Every time you sign anything, you are underwriting the policy. You are contracting. You are the guarantee on insurance. They can guarantee you're going to pay out because you're patriotic. Cat doesn't like it either. Going back to that story on the stolen generation, documentary evidence such as newspaper articles and reports to parliamentary committees suggest a range of rationales. Motivation evidence include child protection, beliefs that given their catastrophic population decline after white contact with Aboriginal people would die out, and the fear of miscegenation by full-blooded Aboriginal people. Now that's a belief that only can be created by the construct of culture. It's a psychological construct. We are all the same. We've been moved about through commerce and navigation, kidnapped and transported. The British East Indian Trading Corporation used to be on ships. Now it's called the Department of Transportation. Human beings have been transported throughout the globe to be appearing as different. If I have sunlight, if I'm exposed to sunlight, I turn black because of the vitamin D. If I don't have sunlight, I turn white because I'm lacking vitamin D. It depends on the quality of the environment, quality of the air, whether I'm going to be short or tall. It's really not genetics until now. Prior to that, it was my environment that determined how tall I am, how tall I could be. It determined my color based on simply my environment, where I was. It had nothing to do with culture. Culture is a psychiatry dream. It's the same thing with patriotism to ball games and ball teams and schools. All of these things are psychological constructs. They're created for you so that you can patronize them. Buy into these things. That is the tree of knowledge. Fiduciary, something else to trust. The tree of knowledge stems from the word fig, fide. Fide is, of course, of the fee. Fide. It's referring to you, and if you are of the fee and participating and partaking of the tree of knowledge, of course you are a fee and a fiefdom. You're a citizen. That's what a citizen is a fee and a fiefdom. You're subscribing to these, partaking of that tree of knowledge, and what do you get? Death. Death. That's what it says. You now get to die. This is all by paper, documentation. You are civilly dead. If you're patronizing something else, if you're bankrupt and depraved and you have no idea who you are, and you're calling something else you or your father, you're calling the United States of America, which is a style or chain of events, a geographical location, first of all. You're patronizing it as a country. It's not a country. It's a chain of events. It's congressional actions. Congress said, well, anything that we do, we'll just make it look like it's solid. This is after Congress pretended to be the 13 colonies. It said, look, we're representing them. They were the 13 colonies. That's the joke. Congress shook its own hand. And you're still patronizing it. As it steals your children, as it kills you and your wife, your mom and your dad, cousins, nephews, nieces. That's what that thing does. It benefits. It cashes in. Each time something occurs or happens to you, it's deriving benefit off of that. You can go to the International Classification of Diseases and Disorders, or ICD-10, and you will find all of these diagnoses with little codes by them. That's your barcode. If you've been diagnosed as delivered, your barcode says 0.88, 0.88. Okay? So then later on, if you're diagnosed as bipolar or injured in another way, you have all these numbers that are all there. Those are the monies that are going into the court system. Those are the monies that go to legislators, lawmakers, and doctors, psychiatrists that diagnose you in fee split, attorneys that are catching in on by being the fund managers on these accounts, on these CUSIP accounts. That is what a stock option is. Those diagnoses, all those little numbers, they're guaranteed because you're producing as those things. You're producing as according to your barcode. Barbie and Ken dolls. That's what citizen product is. It's just a Barbie and Ken doll. You got your little Mattel stamp on your rear end. I'm an American. You wear shirts and pants that say that. It's like your own little flair, your own little sticker. Look at what I got. I can fly a flag outside of my home. Yay. That's your mark. That's your mark. You're worshiping a flag. You're standing under something and pledging allegiance to this thing that doesn't exist, only in the mind, that participates in human trafficking by which to make money. And it requires patriotism to make it all go round. It requires your consent. Calling it your father, that's what makes it go. That's what makes it work. That's how it works. You patronize it. It says, oh goody, let's see what we can do to Job today and how much Job will take before he snaps. And as is written, all these people start dying around Job, and he loses his stuff, and he's suing his neighbor, and his neighbor's suing him, and the county's coming in with code violations. We had a friend go in and she's not doing our process, but she went in and asked for a restraining order today against a very violent individual that's already maintained that he would hurt her, and had an actual altercation with her in a very, very public place, and the judge denied it because she doesn't produce otherwise. She's basically off the grid. That's why this psychopath is coming after her. The attorneys require the effeminate male and the psychopathic female in order to facilitate separation of families. And it's been just, I already knew what would happen, but, we can protect her as the United States. Of course not if she's patronizing church or state, and that's something that, a lot of people don't realize. Church is state, state is church, government is a religion, you're patronizing it, you're exchanging patriotism for some form of protection. If I call you God, will you give me things? The same thing you're doing with the government, with the church, with anything else you're patronizing and calling Father. Rather than patronizing your own house and your house, everybody within it, including yourself. You have so much ability that they've taken by education, which stems from the word pedagogy or attendance on boys. That is the removal of the firstborn son. Education teaches you and indoctrinates you that you can't do this all by yourself because there's some kind of government that will tell you that's illegal. If you do that, it'll tax you. If you do that, who knows what could happen. Privateers might show up and attack and capture your vessel. Not if you're a sovereign state. That's unlawful. Privateering is legal if you're a citizen because that vessel belongs to them. You're telling them that it belongs to them by patronizing it. You're giving it your body or fornicating, according to 1 Corinthians 6. The body is not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. And God both raised up the Lord God, so shall he raise us up by his own power. Okay, I'm waiting. Stop vesting your authority in Congress. Stop giving another entity power to represent you and present you in another way. I'm ready. I'm waiting. Where are you? Stop doing these things. Stop patronizing, calling it your father. Just be. You are the authority. You do no harm. All you do is speak the truth. And of course, there's psychopaths out there. And you don't speak the truth. You don't have a frontal lobe, and you view humans as objects. So my words don't apply to you. That's not the word of God you're speaking. It's something else. Majority is the word of Marduk, which is the demigod of Baal or Baalism. Of course, the court process facilitates Baal every day. The action of holding something hostage in exchange for money. A human being can be popped into court and they're hostages until they pay something to get out of court. Speeding ticket, whatever. I got you. Oh, how did they get you? Patriotism. Ah, darn the luck. Maybe next time. Maybe next time you won't patronize it. And it won't charge your estate to protect you. So that is what charges it are. You're charging your estate because you're lost at sea in order to protect you from yourself. Because apparently you are lost. You don't know who you are. If you're asking somebody else to tell you who you are or represent you, you're a lost vessel. You can go read this in the old mythology, the river of Styx, the river of lost souls. You're just floating on that river of lost souls, and here comes a hospital to save you. 1864 Geneva Convention, maintaining the hospitals are where prisoners of war are kept. Or a bank will save you, which is a court. The definition of bank is, of course, the court. Please find yourself. Please wake up. I mean, we've done so much and we've gone so far, and every day there's all these charges against attorneys and agents and bankers and banks. Now they're charging their estates. But they can still protect you from yourself if you're patronizing it. You're generating revenue and, of course, aiding and abetting the known enemy of humankind by doing that. And you're pimping out your children with the help of the courts and aiding and abetting the known enemy of humankind if you do that. And, of course, the action of informing, rolling on human beings, rolling on your brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers. That's what I said would happen in the end time. Everybody will be known for their works and actions. Everybody's known for their works and actions. So if you've delivered somebody up and think you're going to get away with it, no, it'll come out sooner or later. And if you've been human trafficking and you made a lot of money as a judge, no, you'll be held accountable too. Or if you're the county assessor, assessing value of human beings based on credit scores, you're going to be held accountable for that. The little corporation there will be held accountable for covering the spread that's created in between. See, I can go on and on all day about the human being as a negotiable instrument and how it moves along through the system. I can go on and on all day about the evidence of the county assessor, corporate counsel, county commission who commissions privateers, and the original commissions, the E4s, magistrates. And we can do this for as long as it takes until every last one of you is held accountable for your works. Now, for all of these that have just entered the game, your works might be innocence or of a lesser degree. You'll be held accountable for your works as well. And that's the reason that we have two fee schedules. One is silver and one is in gold. The gold goes to the actual administrators. And of course the silver is for the local transgressor or the local perpetrator of crimes against humanity, harm against humanity. But they all hurt. And that was the point of the fee schedule. And that's what you're seeing now with all of these arrests and criminal actions against attorneys and bankers and agents and realtors and brokers. They're covering this bread. There's a debt owed on one side that's already solidified. They projected the human value to be productive up to a certain amount and taking loans out on that and everything else. And now they've got to cover that because it was never, ever, ever to be on the backs of human beings. A human child was never to have been with a millstone around its neck upon birth, being brought into this world. That is abhorrent, absolutely abhorrent. And there is nothing in this world more important than a human being. Nothing more important than a child. And the majority of human beings are children. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are, 60, 70, 80 years old. Hi, and welcome back to the second hour of Leaving the Pfarm right here on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. We are a listener-supported radio station, and if you'd like to donate, please visit us at www.freedomslips.com and click on our listener support pages. Join us in chat, whatever you feel like. You can also purchase our archives of each show. I mean, it's not that much. I think it's $5 a month or something like that. You can go in there, and if you want them sooner, then they're put up on the YouTube channel. There's lots of opportunities. We have a store. Any little bit helps. And back to the news, WashingtonPost.com. Yesterday, on the 13th, Fairfax school employee charged with embezzlement in school laptop thefts. A Fairfax County Schools employee was arrested Monday on charges that he stole hundreds of school system computers and put them up for sale online. Now get this. Craig Soderbergh, 60, of Alexandria. So he's pushing retirement, isn't he? Craig Soderbergh, 60, of Alexandria, was charged with 2 counts of embezzlement in a scheme to refurbish older laptops and sell them on the secondary market, police said. They said they found more than 1,200 laptops at Soderbergh's home in a search on Thursday. Their arrest comes 2 months after a county middle school principal and a school's finance secretary were arrested on charges of stealing county funds and paying their own children for work they allegedly never performed. So this county is shaking down all of its employees. Okay, this school employee is paid by the county, state, principal, and the school finance secretary. They're all paid by the county and state. Now, if you go back to the 1928 Bayer Corporation coming in as the Republic of Germany and indemnifying Poland, that's what that case was about. They had indemnified overhead to cut overhead. They had a lot of overhead. A lot of school employees, a lot of finance secretaries, a A lot of other school employees, a lot of agents, a lot of attorneys, a lot of psychiatrists, a lot of people on the state roll roster that maybe had a small function, but I mean, sooner or later the overhead becomes too great. And like the psychiatrists, I mean, that was something so profound years ago. The psychiatrists, there were so many psychiatrists at the end of Nazi Germany there, that to save money, they were putting them in boxcars and just melting them alive with lye because it was cheaper than, feeding them. It was cheaper than using bullets. It was cheaper than even walking them into the gas chambers because the gas was expensive. And it appears as if this is happening all over again. Now, this school employee had worked for the past 13 years as the manager of a warehouse owned by the administration at 6800 Industrial Road in Springfield. Obsolete equipment, including older model computers, furniture, and other office items, are stored at the facility. So, let's go back to the origins. Fairfax school employee charged with embezzlement in school laptop thefts. Your tax dollars paid for these laptops. And when they were all obsolete, they were stored in a facility to just sit there forever. So because they were sitting there forever, and if the government auctioned those back off again, that would be embezzlement from you. So this county is saying they've been embezzled from. Those computers were obsolete, paid for by your tax dollars. So if anybody was embezzled from, it was you, and it wasn't this guy, it was the Fairfax School District. But people have been consenting, so we see these things. From Reuters.com today, Vatican grilled over a scale of child sex abuse. United Nations child protection experts who are in Israel right now abusing your kids pushed Vatican delegates on Thursday to reveal the scope of the decades-long sexual abuse of minors by Roman Catholic priests that Pope Francis called, quote, the shame of the church. Yeah. These politicians are shames of churches and state and church and religion and government, which is the same thing, back and forth. But we can present all these presentations and all these pictures, and we can show that these things are separate and not the same, and that the UN is not the same as the United States Incorporated by action and charter of the United States Congress. We can say that there's some form of decentralized government under fourth-generation warfare, and blame the Pope and blame the Vatican and blame the other churches and blame Muslims and blame Mexicans and blame black people and white people and purple people and pink people. And we can keep pointing fingers, or we can go back and say, well, it's been Congress. 1941 with the Atlantic Charter, Congress got global governance. These are congressional actions that are allowing these things to occur. These are actors under Congress, actors under the House of Representatives, which is a play act. It's a marquee. It's a stage. It's a thing presenting to you colorful pictures and colorful dreams and colorful appearances and colorful everything, color of medicine, color of law, color of psychiatry, color of life. And all of these presentations will be believed by you because they know it'll be believed by you. Gelnhausen Charter of 1180. We're coming in here, we can say anything we want to because the minds of the sheeple, they have no attention span. They're not going to remember what we're doing here. So we're going to tell them that a bunch of dead people directed this stuff. And we're going to tell them that they're dead. They were hung on the cross a long time ago, and Judas turned on them and hung himself under political cannibalism. And we're also going to tell them the truth. That it was the chief priests and elders, business owners and corporations, that called out for Jesus' death. Jesus, of course, means your earth. It's being rendered by casting lots or taking up names and titles like citizen, individual, patriot. And human beings will accept this for a long, long, long time. And they'll turn on their brothers, and they'll turn on their sisters, and they'll turn on their mothers and fathers. They'll inform on each other and destroy each other, point fingers at each other, go to war with each other, all in the name of patriotism, calling something else their father. And they'll keep doing this until they can't do it anymore. Until something happens that allows them awareness. Until something egregious happens that shows them the evidence that their court is preying on them or preying on their children. And these things are all written. These are repetitions of history. History repeats itself. This is written in Bolshevik Russia. This is written in Nazi Germany. This is written in Pol Pot's regime. This is written in 9/11. This is written in Chernobyl and Fukushima. All of these things that are created and maintained by your government. All of these things that are done and perpetrated by your government, by which to prompt you into patriotism, by which to sell you these concepts, and I'll protect you. And it's the thing that's hurting you and stealing your children and killing you by prescription. Writing before you are, prescription. To prescribe. So now I can turn you into something else. Prescribe, I can write you before you are, turn you into something else by simple medication. I can give you all sorts of dope, and you'll numb up, and this will all go away for the short time that you're numbed up until you die. They executed the first human being in the United States with hydromorphone and lorazepam today, just as they execute citizens every day entering into the medical industry, just as they're executing you when you're prescribed lorazepam, when you're prescribed hydrocodone, hydromorphone, morphine, Ativan, Seroquel, Trazodone. All of these things shut down life. They shut down your brain. They shut down your lungs. Antibiotics. Trimetsulfate is a chemotherapeutic antibiotic. So you'll believe that you're feeling better for a short amount of time, but the chemotherapeutic effect is breaking down your immunity during that time. And with chronic use, in infants, the resultant effect is shaken baby syndrome. It appears as shaken baby syndrome because it causes yeast to grow in the lungs of that child. And at the end, when that child's trying to cough up all of that stuff in its lungs, it appears as if it's been strangled because it develops petechiae around the mouth, around the ears, eyes, nose. It looks like it's been shaken greatly. This is all just simply a medication called Bactrim or Septra. And in babies it's called trimeth sulfate. At the far-reaching end of chronic use of trimethylsulfate is the diagnosis of HIV and AIDS. Because your immunity's been compromised to such an extent, now you have a lot of things wrong with you. You'll be made comfortable with lorazepam, phenobarb, Seroquel, trazodone, hydromorphone, morphine. So you won't feel yourself dying. And you'll think that your doctors are nice because you feel like you're being taken care of. They'll give you one medication that causes, quote, side effects, so they can sell you the next one, and the next one, and the next one, to take care of the side effects from the first one. They'll sell you foods to eat that make you sick, and medication to make you feel better. And if you get stressed out, they'll write you before you are with prescriptions of lorazepam and Seroquel and hydromorphone, phenobarb. These things are killing you. As you patronize this thing, they're killing you. And you give these things to the children. 3 years ago, there was a group in Florida. There was chemically castrating children, male children, to treat autism, which is a social disorder. It's not a biological disorder. It's socially created by immense pressure on the child that allows them to disassociate. This pressure comes through media forces, through the force of education, matriarchal presence in the education system, abusers in the education system. These are reactive behaviors you're witnessing, and then you're medicating the activity out of the child. You're lysing the life of children. Creative mind is always attention deficit, but you're treating children with ADD. You're giving them derivatives of cocaine. Ritalin is a pseudo form of cocaine. You're destroying the children. We need to stop consenting. I mean, this is all based on your consent. All based on your consent. Now today in the dailymail.co.uk, shocking photos emerged showing U.S. Marines burning bodies of Iraqi insurgents, posing for pictures with skeletons, and even an enemy soldier's remains being eaten by a dog as Pentagon launches probe. This is another means of garnering your support, because they're coming as a protector. It was the Pentagon that directed these Marines. There's corporate policy that directs these Marines. Anti-military force stemming from the 1947 National Security Act. These things that are occurring are only occurring according to national security. To secure the national security, they have to present to you that they are the protector and that they've never directed any of these things. Now, the CIA moved into Iraq, facilitated some insurgencies, made the appearance that it was somebody else. It was always the United States Incorporated. Same thing with Cambodia, Pol Pot, the Korean War, Japanese War, Vietnam War. Every war has been directed and maintained by the United States of America or the United States Incorporated throughout history. These are some sick photographs. But these are children. Anyone in the military is patronizing that as their father. They're broken in boot camp. These are children acting on the directives of their father. Their father needs to be held accountable for these things. And he is. On bbc.co.uk, BBC UK today, Greater Manchester Police Chief faces shooting charges. Everybody needs to listen very carefully. The Chief Constable at Greater Manchester Police, Sir Peter Fahey, is to be prosecuted after an unarmed man was shot dead by an officer. Anthony Granger, 36, was shot in the chest after the car he was in stopped in Colchester in 2012. The Crown Prosecution Service believes there is sufficient evidence to prove the force broke health and safety laws. But a solicitor for Mr. Granger's family said they were disappointed the police marksman was not being charged. Prosecutors have decided the marksman who killed Mr. Granger on 3 March 2012 should not face charges for murder, manslaughter, or misconduct in public office because a jury would be likely to accept the belief he believed his actions were necessary. Well, if they put him on the stand, they will learn that a psychiatrist was directing him the entire time he was acting as an officer. If they put any of these officers on the stand, these officers will maintain that it was the district attorney, that it was the county commission, that it was a psychiatrist that was directing them to do what they've done. So they're not going to put them on the stand. They're going to corner them and burn them alive in houses like they did to Dorner. Now, law enforcement is working for others. They are in a commissioned state to facilitate business. However, law enforcement is not taught that side of things. Law enforcement believes that it's protecting humanity. It has no idea that these things are all within banking because there's a requirement. Law enforcement officers have extremely low IQs. They have handlers called chief of police. And these chiefs of police are trained at Quantico and Langley. Law enforcement officers go to school elsewhere. Now, what was interesting in this story today, for the first time ever, is that prosecutors have decided the marksman who killed Mr. Granger on 3 March 2012 should not face charges for murder, and that the Greater Manchester Police Chief faces those charges himself. This is a beautiful day for all of mankind. Now that the psychiatrists and agents, attorneys, bankers, judges are in the chute as a surety. And I am thankful for it. As a side issue, we've been covering North Korea and Dennis Rodman being there because it's been beautiful. On CNN with Christiana Manafort on amanpour.blogs.cnn.com, there's stunning new footage of defiance emerges from North Korea. A groundbreaking new documentary is using smuggled footage to paint a new and dramatic picture of the Hermit Kingdom, North Korea. Much of the world sees North Koreans as brainwashed and subservient, bowing down to Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un. The Frontline documentary, Secret State of North Korea, from the American public broadcaster PBS, shows that for many people in North Korea, just the opposite is true. Quote, we saw lots of examples of people standing up to authority in ways that we hadn't expected. Director James Jones told CNN's Christiana Manpour on Wednesday, one of the most dramatic pieces of footage was of a woman who has set up a private bus service using a pickup truck. Quote, the soldier comes and tells her to stop running this private bus service, which is illegal, Jones said. And rather than, as you would expect, saying, I'm so sorry and apologizing, she stands up for it. I mean, literally chases him off down the street, smacking him on the back, calling him every name under the sun. Well, here in America, where it's freer than North Korea, doggone it, if an IRS agent comes to your door and tells you that you're owing taxes, heck, if you chase him down the street beating him, you'd be charged with abuse of an official. You'd be charged with assault on a federal agent. Here in America, where we're much, much freer than North Korea, of course. These things are very, very, very interesting to come upon, especially in recent months and days. And, you know, the American citizen needs to wake up and realize what it is patronizing. Now, there's a story on CNN that's been circulating that is just astounding about what happened. Attorney Cullen, Asiana crash video shows firefighters didn't help girls soon enough. I watched this video, and there's a girl that had survived the crash laying on the ground. There's another firefighter saying, hey, wait, stop, there's a human here. And then there's a fire truck that runs over the little girl and kills her. Quote, a new video of last year's Asiana airline plane crash in San Francisco shows firefighters spotting a 16-year-old Chinese girl lying on the ground but failing to help her. An attorney for the girl's family charges Yiming Wan was later run over by 2 different fire trucks, killing her, said Justin Green, a lawyer for the girl's family. So, of course, the attorney's in here with his hand out. He's waiting to cash in on these things. A child was murdered by a corporate officer driving a corporate vehicle. In fact, the video depicts one firefighter alerting a fire truck driver about how, quote, there's a body right here. In the footage, a firefighter stops an emergency vehicle racing towards the scene. Whoa, stop. There's a body right there, right in front of you, quote, end quote, the firefighter told the driver. The video was captured on a camera attached to a firefighter's helmet and first aired on CBS. Another video from a fire truck shows a firefighter on the ground directing the truck around a victim who was not covered in foam at the time. Yet, Ye's parents have filed a gross negligence claim against the city and county of San Francisco, arguing that the emergency responders who spotted Ye on the ground failed to save her life. They murdered this child. They took a human life, knowing that there was a human being there. I watched the video. She's unmistakably a human being. A truck ran right over her. Absolutely appalling. Here's another good news story. Special ops soldier killed in copter's hard landing at Georgia Airfield. Special operations soldier from an airborne unit was killed when an MH-60 Black Hawk helicopter made a hard landing during a training exercise at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia, the military said. 2 other soldiers were injured Of course, they're going to be used as prostitutes late Wednesday and taken to a local hospital for treatment, a news release said. The soldiers, none of whom were identified, were part of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment and Airborne Division known as Night Stalkers. Emergency personnel were on the scene Thursday afternoon and an investigation into the landing was underway, the military said. Originally formed from the 101st Airborne Division, the Night Stalkers Regiment earned its name by pioneering night flying techniques, according to the Fort Campbell, Kentucky website where the 101st is headquartered. That's what my dad was in, 101st Airborne. He was reconnaissance, so psychiatry, in the action of promoting fourth-generation warfare against citizens. And, of course, jumping in with hearts and minds after the pressure builds. Offering to be their savior after the military comes in and destroys everything. Now this week we've been talking a lot about psychiatry and the action of psychiatry. Again, because that's what makes the world go round. You bad boys and bad girls out there listening, earning the right to be, constantly assuming these positions as you take up these concepts and earn your being. Florida theater shooting suspect Curtis Reeves had commendable police career. This is on Huffington Post. This officer actually left the theater and he took a phone call. And during that time when he was on the phone, something occurred. He went back into the theater and he shot an unarmed man. And then the reports say he sat down in his seat, gun in his lap, and his hands folded as if he was bewildered. That happens a lot when psychiatrists are on the phone with cops, agents, officers, Manchurian candidates. This happens a lot because the psychiatrist is able to lice the mind in a quick manner of time. And the psychiatrist can get you to do just about anything by using force against you. Maybe this man's family was threatened if he didn't do this. Maybe he had some skeletons in his closet, like pedophilia or something horrifying that was used against him to facilitate a murder. These things are occurring every day, day in and day out. The psychiatry can promote somebody to commit suicide who didn't have thoughts of that prior. The psychiatry can be used in the medical industry at the end stages of life. Psychiatrists will come in and talk you into signing do not resuscitate orders at the time when you're on your knees. At the time when you're experiencing the most trauma you've experienced in your life, here comes a psychiatrist to kick you in the teeth. Or a priest, which is a psychiatrist, to kick you in the teeth, to remind you that you're a sinner if you don't give all your money to him. You're a sinner if you don't patronize him and his church, or her and her church. All of these things preying on you when your back is turned or you're on your knees, because that's what they do. That is their function. These are the things that you're patronizing. Calling your father. This is hell. Hell, of course, defined in Black's Law Dictionary, is a place below the exchequer where the king's debtors are held. So if a priest calls you a sinner or a psychiatrist calls you disordered, you're always in hell. You're a debtor. You're bankrupt and depraved They've diagnosed you and prescribed what you are instead through use of prescription medications. These things are all done quietly and behind the scenes with your approval and your consent and your absolute patriotism, assuming that these things are protecting you in exchange for that patriotism. These things are confusing until you get out of that. And you're able to brush off all of these things and divest all of these things that hold you in these chains and binderies. Bindings. You're in a bound state. And if you read the original charters, you find, yep, that's what it says. We're going to bind you and hold you and keep you. We're going to diagnose you and protect you and prescribe you. Inscribe you, and you can subscribe to this and be the underwriters. From CNN.com, CNN exclusive, Port Authority job created for Christie ally, source says. Quote, give him a position at the top of the agency. He's a good friend of the governor. That's how David Wildstein was introduced to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey in 2010, according to the former employee with extensive knowledge of the agency's hiring practices. Excuse me. Soon after Wildstein was named the director of Interstate Capital Projects, a title that previously had not existed at the bi-state agency, setting in motion a career that would eventually place a former political blogger at the center of the lane closures controversy at the George Washington Bridge. Wildstein catapulted into the national spotlight with his response to the infamous email from New Jersey Governor Chris Christie aide, quote, time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee, end quote. Bridget Kelly wrote. Wildstein responded, got it. Come on. They're playing a game here. Everybody's pointing fingers everywhere else. This is all a game. It's a game theory. If you do this, this happens. If you play it this way, people go that way. These are game theorists behind the scenes. These are psychiatrists behind the scenes. This is Governor Christie acting at their behest. But he gets to be the fall guy. Back in Nazi Germany, everybody was slaughtered. But Ernst Rudin, a psychiatrist in the administration, was moved right over to the American administration to continue on the eugenics programs that they had started there, using the mental health aspect or psychiatry industry. Everybody can read this in a book called this Psychiatrists, The Men Behind Hitler. And in this, you'll see the use of prescription medications to facilitate these things. The gas chambers. These gases came from such as Dow Chemical Corporation, these pharmaceutical corporations. This is Bear coming in to indemnify Poland. And of course, 1933, the United States of America, a style, a chain of events, declared bankruptcy. They had already formulated the United States Incorporated as of 1802. Not with the state constitution or enablement acts, but the 1802 Indemnification Convention. Human beings were indemnified to discharge congressional bankruptcy. And the 5 commissions were established by which to do so. Now, in these commission states, you bumped into privateers, cops, agents, To discharge congressional bankruptcy, you're diagnosed. Diagnosis born. From inception, you're generating revenue. Maybe you break your leg or your finger. Maybe you bump your head and need stitches. Perhaps you're the one giving birth. If you go to court, you're damaged. Diagnosis damaged or injured. Victim. Plaintiff. Defendant. Respondent. Citizen, individual. All of these things are diagnoses. Some of them, if you're acting as such, you are that thing. That's the evidence of your works in action. You're marked, as are they. All of these things generate revenue off of your back. You're being held in perpetual servitude, slavery, for a corporation to maintain corporations on corporate welfare, according to the first and second welfare theorem. Everything you do is seen and accounted for. You're counted as objects. Trending sounds like a nice term, but when things are trending and you're consenting to these things, this opens up new market conditions. So if you accept this, Job, we can do this to make you a more efficient product. And that's what trending is. They want to know what you enjoy, what you put up with, what you tolerate, what you don't tolerate, what you will scream about if they give you an opportunity. If they present to you that you're racist and you buy that, they can sell you another program to combat racism, and you'll pay them more money. If the FBI beats somebody's head in, or in the instance of the individual in Manchester, if they direct a sniper to kill somebody, all of these things, you don't see what's going on. You're not looking at the bigger picture. And of course, you're patronizing these things. They can tell you that the guy that was shot he had a history of domestic violence. He had a history, he had bad credit. He had bad credit. One time he was out drinking tea and he wasn't lifting his pinky finger. All of these things are insane. Etiquette, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. You're an animal. These things, civil society, Gramsci explains it so well through the use of force and consent regarding the two states. And you've got the federal state and, of course, the national state. The national state is each county as a foreign nation combining together to be united, the United States or United Nations. And you've got constant, you're going back and forth, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy. Of course, we were talking about the 1802 Identification Convention earlier. Of course, the state constitutions stem from that, the acts of enablement. They were given land. They were the illusion of land ownership. And then in the 70s, the federal government came in and started reclaiming that land under the Reclamation Acts. We have to protect these things. I name this river this, and in the name of whatever. So they started taking it back. So the national state has been being raised by the federal state since the 70s. But again, this occurs until everybody wakes up, realizes what's going on, and stops patronizing these things. As we know, the Burgoy is liberalism. From the wiki page, I actually like this one regarding state and civil society. Quote, Gramsci's theory, and this is Antonio Gramsci, of hegemony is tied to its conception of the capitalist state. Gramsci does not understand the state, quote, in the narrow sense of the government. Instead, he divides it between political society, the police, the army, legal system, etc., the arena of political institutions and legal constitutional control, and, quote, civil society, the family, the education system, trade unions, etc., commonly seen as the, quote, private or non-state sphere. And that is a state sphere. It's through the Department of Education, federal programming, mediating between the state and the economy. That word economy means laws of the home. It's not a tangible thing. It's a concept. He stresses, however, that the division is purely conceptual and that the two, in reality, often overlap. The capitalist state, Gramsci claims, rules through force plus consent. Political society is a realm of force, and civil society is a realm of consent. So as you're a citizen and you're consenting to that thing over you and patronizing it, it's implicating all sorts of force, isn't it? Congress, through the International Monetary Fund, controls the scarcity of all known currency. This means it controls the inflation rate because Congress also controls the commodity market and regulates commerce, according to the Commerce Clause. And these things are absolutely criminal on their face. You can go read it right now, the Commerce Clause. These things are criminal. Commerce Clause allowed commerce and navigation, and the restrictive principle of sovereign immunity, the Sovereign Immunities Act, Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, maintains on the evidence that a foreign state is not with immunity and not with sovereignty because they're acting under acts of commerce and private acts. Well, and this week it's been fun. Where's your evidence? Well, Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform Commercial Code stems from the Negotiable Instrument Act stemming from the law merchant. It is nothing but commercial acts, acts of commerce and private acts, maintaining commerce and navigation, which has been found by the evidence to be human trafficking and the action of genocide. Stop patronizing this thing. I'm watching as so many especially during the holidays, this time makes me so sick. Because going into the holidays, you have everybody being diagnosed and diagnosing themselves as depressed, as ill. They're just rushing out for those medications. Give me my prescriptions. I just want to sleep through Christmas. Christmas is a concept. Santa Claus is a concept. These are all created so that you feel bad during the holidays. It's another day. It's another part of the year. You're lacking even more sunlight than you started out lacking in the summertime when you feel kind of good. You need sunlight. You need vitamin D. Depressed means to press down upon. I mean, somebody's above you pressing you down. Of course, if you're patronizing the laws and concepts, it's riding on your shoulders. Divest yourself of all that possesses you. Stop using those titles and names. Stop trying to earn the right to be. You already are. Realize these things. It is imperative, absolutely imperative, that you find yourself. You find out what your authority is. Gramsci proffers that under modern capitalism, the bourgeoisie can maintain its economic control by allowing certain demands made by trade unions and mass political parties within civil society to be met by the political sphere. Now, what does that mean? Well, the CIA developed the trade union. So you've got force over here on this side, and you've got media force on this side. And these two media forces are telling you in your mind, we're the good guy. No, wait, I'm the good guy. No, wait, I'm the good guy. I'm the good guy. Wait a second, you are the good guy. Screw politics. Polycratis means to control or possess many. Stop buying into these shows. Here's Congress pointing the finger over at Bank of America. Bank is a court under Congress, the Judiciary Act, 28 U.S.C. Attorneys have an oath that they are not hypothecated, whereby they can facilitate banking of human beings, hypothecating human beings. 12, which is banking code USC subsection 73. Now these things are disgusting. You need to really observe what's going on and look around you and wake up. There's no time like right now. There is no other time as now. Just stand up and wake up. Open your eyes to reality, who the predator is, and how to get out from underneath this thing. It's absolutely disgusting. You can read more about Gramsci, Antonio Gramsci, and hegemony. That's one of our students' assignments, in the beginning, because hegemony is so imperative. It's the maintaining of status quo power structures by use of media influence. And you can go to bbg.gov, which is the Broadcasting Board of Governors, and read more on this control. The Broadcasting Board of Governors has international control of all civil media. That means the PBS is under the Broadcasting Board of Governors. That means the ABC, the American Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, National Broadcasting Corporation, CBS, Corporate Broadcasting Corporation, their service. These are all under control of the Broadcasting Board of Governors. You're going to see what they want you to see, according to market conditions, because you are the product. And the way to program you to facilitate actions conducive to politics is by television programming. You are being programmed to be a product. Turn that thing off. Go elsewhere for your evidence. Evidence can be derived from the state of being